What's up, everybody? I came across this and wanted to read this to you all because it's pretty eye-opening when you consider the responsibilities, duties, and obligations of these public servants, and specifically the courts. Now, this is from the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. It's Rule 60, relief from a judgment or order. Now, I'm going to be basically reciting this from law.cornell.edu and that particular Rule 60 from the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Rule 60, relief from a judgment or order. Section A, corrections based on clerical mistakes, oversights, and omissions. The court may correct a clerical mistake or a mistake arising from oversight or omission whenever one is found in a judgment order, order, or other part of the record. The court may do so on motion or on its own, with or without notice. Let me repeat that. The court may do so on motion or on its own, with or without notice. But after an appeal has been docketed in the appellate court and while it is pending, such a mistake may be corrected only with the appellate court's leave. Section B, grounds for relief from a final judgment, order, or proceeding. On motion and just terms, the court may relieve a party of it or its legal representative from a final judgment, order, or proceeding for the following reasons. 1. Mistake, inadvertence, surprise, or excusable neglect. 2. Newly discovered evidence that, with reasonable diligence, could not have been discovered in the time to move for a new trial under Rule 59B. 3. Fraud, whether previously called intrinsic or extrinsic, misrepresentation, or misconduct by an opposing party. 4. The judgment is void. 5. The judgment has been satisfied, released, or discharged. It is based on an earlier judgment that has been reversed or vacated, or applying it prospectively is no longer equitable. Or 6. Any other reason that justifies relief. Section C. Timing and effect of the motion. Timing. A motion under Rule 60B must be made within a reasonable time, and for reasons 1, 2, and 3, no more than a year after the entry of the judgment or order of the date of the proceeding. 2. Effect on finality. The motion does not affect the judgment's finality or suspend its operation. Section D. Other powers to grant relief. The rule does not limit a court's power to 1. Entertain an independent action to relieve a party from a judgment, order, or proceeding. 2. Grant relief under 28 U.S.C. 1655 to a defendant who was not personally notified of the action. Or 3. Set aside a judgment for fraud on the court. Section E. Bills and writs abolished. The following are abolished: bills of review, bills in the nature of bills of review, the writs of quorum nobis, quorum vobis, and audita querela. Now, there's some notes there. If you want to go to that site, you can read further. I don't want to go over all of that information there. I just wanted to go over the basic information of the rule. So, now if you go back and look, there are several instances here where it mentions that the court has the ability to perform this action on its own. And if a public servant operating or acting in the capacity of a judicial officer, when they become aware, it's brought to their attention, whichever is first, that there is misconduct, negligence, bad faith actions being performed by their colleagues, or the people bringing the suit. when they can easily identify that, they have an obligation to correct the record. So here we see that, according to the federal rules of civil procedure, which supersede the state rules of civil procedure, according to the article, I can't remember off the top of my head, the Supremacy Act, or Supremacy Clause, excuse me, from the Constitution, where essentially even the lower courts are bound by the higher courts, and the state laws are bound by the federal laws in the Constitution. So when these people act together in a manner to deprive people like myself of rights, of God-given rights, through color of law actions, when it states in the laws that they're supposedly following that not only do they have an obligation and a duty to do the right thing, essentially, ethically and morally, but for the respect and so-called honor of the court, if that's even possible, doing the right thing, having integrity. Because at this point, these people, Kelly Cottrell, Mark C. Flegel, Michael Hughes, Ronald Welch, let's see, I'm trying to remember their names, David Tarbert, Stephanie Sheets, I think Kimberly Hambrick, and I can't remember the last one off the top of my head. Anyways, these people, what they've done is they've disgraced that institution, if you will. They've put a stain on it because of their bad faith actions and because of their conspiracy to deprive me of my rights by not doing the right thing, by disparaging me and putting me in a situation that's nearly impossible to overcome in a reasonable time frame, when I've got so many bad faith actors that are working against me. Even the public, what I call pretender, public defender, Keith Edwards, this so-called veteran, that willingly plays the game with the court to deprive people of their rights, ignoring the reality of the situation, ignoring the facts, but to just play the game so that way they can get paid. He can get paid. And of course, because I didn't need him or want him to help me, but I was forced to by the court because they wouldn't listen to anything I had to say, and of course they wanted it their way. So, but even with this pettifogger shadowing over me as I'm trying to figure this out, navigate through this nonsense and nightmare, even this jerk-off didn't have the what's the word? Courage. He didn't have the courage to do the right thing. He stood by and let this all happen. So now here we are. I've been forced to essentially eat a shit sandwich. And now I'm the one that's forced to fix it. If these people had the ability or were capable to be responsible, to be accountable, to actually quote-unquote police themselves, then this would never have happened. But clearly, because of the fact that it did happen, because of the fact that it did happen, that's proof of everything I've said from the beginning. They have validated everything I've said. That's why all the haters have disappeared. That's why all the naysayers have disappeared. That's why there's hardly any more nasty comments talking about, my mental state and this, that, and the other thing, talking about SOV sits and whatever other nonsensical ideas these idiots want to throw at me. But I've proved everybody wrong. And even still, with these people having a duty and a responsibility and an obligation to do the right thing according to the law, according to the laws that bind them, whether in their respective positions or just generally, they should have the responsibility and obligation to fix it. In fact, it even says in the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure that the court has the ability to perform the action on its own without even giving notice. So, maybe that's the case. Maybe they didn't notify me. Maybe they did correct the record. And if that's the case, then, retract these statements. But to my knowledge, at this point, I haven't seen any evidence of that. And so, to this point, or at this point that we're in now, at this time, they have allowed it. They've condoned, they've acquiesced, they've conspired, they've colluded, and refused to do the right thing. They're not responsible enough to hold these positions. These people should be in prison. These people should be sent to Guantanamo Bay, like I've heard other people talking about, and it doesn't seem like that place is really used enough. But these people are deserving of military tribunals and to be dealt with accordingly, according to the law. And maybe that needs to happen for examples to be set so that when new people being elected or appointed or hired or whatever the situation may be, they will know that they need to follow the guidelines, rules, regulations, laws that bind them. And if they don't, well, the example would be the potential consequences. So it would be a deterrent, just much like these attorneys like to use threats of violence towards people as a deterrent. It's basically unlawful in many situations that I've witnessed and experienced and seen that these public servants usually tend to use violent threats and terroristic style activities to force people to do things that are, or not do things that are constitutionally protected. The opposite of what these public servants are supposed to do. So, that in and of itself is evidence of bad faith. Because they're not acting appropriately in the capacity that they're supposed to, according to the job description, according to the laws and the regulations and policies that pertain to them. But when they're given carte blanche to do whatever they want, and there's no accountability, like I've said, I've, at this point, feel like I'm harping on the fact that the idiotic people from this state have allowed this to happen. See, I used to be solely upset with the public servants because of their inability to perform their actions properly, or even comprehend that they might be doing something wrong. But anyways, it took some time to realize that the only reason they're doing that is because the people are allowing it. Just like these idiots that I named off in one of the previous recordings that claim to be jurors and all this nonsense. And, from the evidence, they're illiterate, they're incompetent, and they can't differentiate facts from fiction. And all it takes is a flowery story with a sharp-dressed mullet to dazzle them and mesmerize them and make them just believe anything. Just go along with it. Because after all, they're getting paid to be there, right? And they probably took off work, used like PTO or something like that, so they're getting paid by their job to be off. And then also they're getting paid by the court to be there. So it's almost like double dipping, but hey, I guess, loophole's a loophole. But does it make it right to strip somebody of their God-given rights just because they're paid to be there? Because they're too stupid or illiterate or incompetent to pay attention to the facts? I thought that was the whole point of them being there, was to ascertain the facts and make a decision based on the facts, not on a flowery story by some shyster. But this is what goes on all the time. This is what you people, and yes, I said you people, all of you, with very few exceptions, condone, allow, and even support. So you choose who you're going to serve. But I am certainly not going to serve these bad faith actors, these terrorists, with anything other than a lawsuit and reconciliation for the damages that they've caused me and my estate. So go check it out. They've had the ability to fix this all along. And like I said, if they have, then I'll retract the statement. And if they haven't, then that's just further evidence, like I stated, that they're conspiring, that they don't care, that there's no accountability. And so therefore they are actively working to bring down our republic, the rule of law, the Constitution. Whether they realize it or not, and if they don't realize it, I don't know how that's possible, because especially for some of these people with not only the training and education, but also the experience that they have to be in some of these positions, it's hard for me to believe that they don't realize it. So maybe it's something like, the Jeffrey Epstein thing, where maybe some of these people have some, dirt out there on them, and, they've got to do what they're told to do, or else they might be exposed for who they truly are. Who knows? I'm just speculating. Why else would people like these people do such egregious things, perform such egregious bad faith actions, knowingly, right there in their face? Conspire together. Not one of them apparently has the backbone or the conscience or the courage to stand up and say, wait a minute, something's not right here. Well, obviously they didn't. They're spineless cowards who acquiesce for a paycheck, who toe the line and do what they're told, either for that paycheck or because, maybe they got some dirt out there on them. And who knows? God only knows what these people are capable of, or what they've done to get in the positions that they're in. So at this point, if there's an unwillingness on their part to fix it, even though they've got the authorization to act on their own to fix it, and if they're going to force me to fix it, then it's going to cost them in the long run. because either the insurance will settle, maybe, possibly, but if not, then I can take their house, take their car, I can take everything they own through a process of creating liens against their property. All of it. And everything they're associated with. All assets, all interests. I can seize everything. I'm not making any threats. I'm just saying, if I've got to go through the extra efforts of fixing this because they're unwilling to, well, I'm going to get compensated for my time and effort and energy that I have to put forth to do this. This is distracting me from my pursuit of happiness, from things that I like to do, to essentially, have to do their job that they're supposedly getting paid to do, that they're refusing and unwilling to do. So therefore, why shouldn't I be compensated for that time and energy and effort and the damages that they've caused collectively? I think that's pretty reasonable. I mean, after all, what kind of price would you put on making somebody fear for their life, fear for their safety for years, and also allow them to be tortured in their own home by constant noise at night? It's very disturbing. I mean, what kind of price, how can you quantify what kind of damages that could even, equate to? Other than I provided to the court and to these bad faith actors that if they don't do the right thing, well, the fee and fine schedule will explain it all in full detail. So they can't say they weren't notified. They can't say they didn't know because it's on the record. So they all got a copy of it. They all supposedly read it or looked at it at least. Well, at least they should have. And if they didn't, then that's their own fault. So there you have it. More evidence of these inbred necks that don't want to do the right thing. So, I mean, what more do you people need? Do I need to, put it on a silver platter for you? Do I need to, have one of the skywriters put it up in the sky, or, in amongst all the quote-unquote contrails? Yeah, you probably missed that too because you're too busy with your face stuck in your phone. So think about it. Go read that rule, the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, rule number 60, relief from a judgment or order.